Yep, I just got back from the movie theater just now after watching the Lilo and Stitch live action Disney film. And I want to talk about it because this is a film that, for me personally, as someone who has lived here in Hawaii all their life, I been went to this film with honestly with open arms, with not a lot of expectations, because I grew up loving and watching and rewatching the Lilo and Stitch movie that came out back in 2002, along with its numerous amount of spin-offs, which I might talk about in this video. The original Lilo and Stitch film to this day has got to be one of my favorite animated films to come out in the Disney space, and one of the main reasons why I really got into watching a lot of Disney movies and TV shows in the first place if it wasn't for this Lilo and Stitch movie. And in general, this movie was one of my favorite childhood movies to come out in recent memory. And so when I heard that a live action Lilo and Stitch movie was inevitably going to be coming into the mainstream once again, I had to watch it because, listen, I think we can agree Disney live action films either hit or sometimes mostly miss. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I'm sorry if you are like the millions of people who like the live action Lion King or the live action Mulan or the live action Aladdin. It's not good. But I had to make a section with Lilo and Stitch because this is a movie that I grew near and dear to my heart. And how do I feel about this film after watching it? Well, I can confidently say that it's good, but it's not great, if that makes sense. So to kind of get the good positive comments out of the way, because I feel like at this point, if you know the original Lilo and Stitch, I think spoilers alert ahead is not going to be a huge deal with what's coming up. But what I will compliment in this film is that they did a really good job with the CGI. When they were animating Pleakley, Stitch, Jumba, and even the alien empress that was the main head in charge of the original film, I think they did a really good job with CGI. They also recaptured the infamous like first scene that really kicks off the Lilo and Stitch film in a nutshell, and I like it. It was really good, really subtle. But I guess this is a not really a spoiler at this point, but one of the biggest like misses, or I would say no presence whatsoever, is the non-presence of Captain Gontu. That Captain Gontu, who is like the big villain of this film, and it's interesting that he was not in this film, but I guess it makes sense to why, because maybe they're going to save it for the next sequel that's coming out, which, once again, even I just found out just now as I was recording this video. But anyway, the CGI of this film was really good. I thought that the performance from Chris Sanders playing Stitch once again was really good. Um, they nailed it with a lot of the really good callbacks to the original film, but also making sure that it's kind of up to the modern day, like Hawaii type of film. Because keep in mind, the original Lilo Stitch came out in 2002, so a lot of what was in that film could is considered outdated per se. So they had to ramp it up to like the modern day sense of the film. I also like the acting of some of the characters in this movie. I thought the actresses for Nani and for the actress who plays Lilo, I think they did a pretty good job at playing their roles respectfully. Again, the other big shocker is the actor who plays Cobra Bubbles did a really good job in his performance. Even the House Homelander Social Security worker surprisingly did a really good job. And it's interesting because the social worker that plays this film is actually the original voice actor for Nani in this film, which you may not get it at first glance, but when you listen to her voice really carefully, it you know that that's the original Nani from the original Lilo and Stitch. And same goes with um, another person in the film that again um, also kind of spoils it a little bit. But there's another person in the film that acts as a manager, and he's actually one of the original voice actors of another big character, which I'm not going to spoil because if anything, why would I? If you're interested in the Lilo and Stitch live action, go for it. So I think with that, again, everything about the film is really good. It is aesthetically shot somewhat well, but I think that's where my compliments would have to end for now. Because man, there is a lot of stuff that's kind of wrong with this film right off the gate. So, literally right off the gate, I felt like this film was rushed really fast. Like it felt like the beginning of the original film was paced really well, really building up to the inevitable where Stitch crash lands onto Earth. And in this film, it felt like it was rushed for the sake of being rushed, but also trying to push in like a lot of side quest moments to like get the film growing in a way. And I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't super bad, but I felt like they could have done something more with that. And while the film feels like it's getting rushed pretty much at the very beginning of this film, I kind of was brushing it off like, okay, maybe they're just speed running it just for the sake of like telling the story, whatever. Um, but then we get into like some of the probably the worst actor in the film. I'm sorry, I don't want to disrespect this actor by any means necessary, but the person who plays David in this film, I felt was super awkward, and he was just there for the sake of being a comedic punching bag. And it's like, man, what the heck, man? David was like a really cool, chill dude in the original Lilo and Stitch, and for some reason, his performance as David just felt like it was giving off like a boring but nonchalant performance where it's like, okay, haha, look at him. It's David. He's trying to make crack up some jokes again, that type of stuff. And I don't know, it felt like it wasn't a really good performance in his part. So that definitely was one of the main key things that threw me off. Another thing that definitely threw me off was the absence, at least at one point in the film, was no Cobra Bubbles. So if you remember the original Lilo and Stitch, Cobra Bubbles actually did appear at the very beginning of the movie. Instead, it's replaced by a social security worker, who is played by Tia Carrera, and she's essentially like telling Nani that, hey, you gotta keep your things in order, or else we gotta send Lilo away to like a better place and all this other stuff. And Cobra Bubbles does eventually appear in the film, like I would say like midway through the film, but his impact doesn't make a lot much of a presence per se. Where in the original Cobra Bubbles, he was disguised as a social security worker, but he was also a CIA agent. In this film, he was just purely a CIA agent for the sake of being a CIA agent. But again, I will commend that the actor who plays Cobra Bubbles did a really good job capturing the charisma and what made Cobra Bubbles special in the first place. I just thought that that decision to switch from just a pure social security worker instead of just Cobra Bubbles being both of them at the same time felt like a bit of a mess, if you ask me. So then we get into what I think might be my least favorite part of the film, and that's towards the very end of the film. Um, Towards the very end of the film, it gets really like trying to be like a bit of an emotional roller coaster ride. So to if anyone cares about spoilers, be warned. So that's your spoiler warning. So during the final climactic moment of the film, um, because Gantu is not in this film, who is actually the new villain of this film? It turns out it's actually Jumba, who is the main villain of this film, which is a pretty damn shame because in the original, Jamba was kind of sort of like the reflection of Stitch for like how he started off as evil, but slowly throughout the film he progresses to like a good guy. And this one, I felt that Jumbo's performance when he was like trying to be evil for the sake of being evil for the sake of capturing 626 or Stitch and trying to go back, it felt forced. Like it was not convincing enough. And on top of it, I think Jumbo's performance as a villain was not as overwhelming. More like it was underwhelming, if that makes sense. And it's such a damn shame because I feel like they could have done a lot if they're trying to make Jumba the villain of this movie, but they failed pretty miserably at it. It's more like, haha, I'm the villain. I'm gonna take Stitch away for the sake of taking him away. And I don't know, man. They feel like they lowered his IQ down to like to something because Jumba at times plays some really stupid roles and doesn't really think on top of his game what he thinks about it. Also, um, they kind of throw a pretty big cliffhanger where there's a pretty big scene where after Lilo and Stitch are able to sink his ship, Lilo and Stitch are stuck in the ocean. Lilo and Stitch are fighting for their lives to swim and stay alive, and it ultimately leads to where Lilo saved, but Stitch is drowned and he's dying. And Nani decides to pull a god move and decides to run up to the fucking beach, like in the bottom of the fucking ocean, all the way to the beach, carrying Stitch because Stitch is too heavy. And you know, I felt that was like really goofy. I'm not gonna lie on that, sports fans. Um, and once again, I feel like they didn't really do that ending, the same Stitch justice because it felt super goofy. It also is once again like I felt like this film was trying to piece together the first Lilo and Stitch film and Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, the third film that would come out in the franchise. And I felt like they were trying to piece those two movies together in this final act here of bravery and courage. And while it was really cool to say the least to see that Nani is like really strong and she's doing it for the sake of saving Stitch, it it felt so unrealistic. I'm not gonna lie. Like, how in the world are you carrying Stitch? You're running into the water, and it's like, bro, no shot you're running in the water with and kicking your feet so hard just for the sake of getting onto shore. It just doesn't make sense. Again, that final scene was really goofy. What also crushed it in this film for me, in my opinion, which made it bad, was that again there were moments where we had interactions of where it's trying to be humorous for the sake of being humor, but then there's moments where it tries to play in a serious role, especially the whole dynamic with the social security worker, Lilo, and Nani in the mix, and David being in the background doing God knows what, just trying to be stupid, trying to get people laughing at him, and those moments are really cool. It really does play like a really pivotal, serious moment. Like, oh no, like this is Nani and Lilo. They don't want to be separated. You gotta care for them. You have to care for them. You don't want to be them being taken away and separated by the social security worker. Like, no. And that's cool and all, but I just feel like they they just kind of was like trying to push that too much towards like, okay, we get it. Not let's not like kind of amplify this up a little bit. I don't know. And most importantly, I think the last thing I'll get out of the way is that, they do change a lot of the qualities of what made Nani, the original Nani from Lilo and Stitch, special in the first place. I do wish, however, that they didn't throw in a lot of these little tidbits of lore as to like why Nani is the way she is per se. Again, I do appreciate that they at least try to incorporate that. Oh, their mother and father has passed away, which is why Nani is in charge of Lilo. That's cool. I like that. But it's the whole like marine biology career move stuff that felt a little bit enforced per se, where it's like, okay, you got me on the mama and papa death, but why are you pushing this marine biology stuff on Nani? It was like literally one part of the synopsis of the film at the very beginning, and then towards the very end, we get that plot revealed once again, but it wasn't really fully explored. It's like, okay, I did it, I achieved my dreams of being a marine biologist, and it's like, that makes no sense. So anyway, I feel like the film overall is it's a pretty good live action film. Is it definitely like the lower tier, bottom tier levels of like bad Disney live action films? I simply don't think so. There are some really cool moments of the film that's really good. Again, anytime Stitch is on the screen, you're gonna be laughing your ass off and essentially like loving the character. And again, Lilo and Stitch's interaction is still going strong, still going well. I think the performance for Pleakley is also another big one that I think is also underestimated when people watch this film initially. I think his performance was really, really good. Um, and overall, while I do think that a sequel to this film is a bad idea, I don't know. Maybe there is a potential that's going to be good, but if if they're gonna be doing that, it's gonna be hard to transition from this first Lilo and Stitch live action into a sequel. You know what I mean? They're kind of just rushing it for the sake of rushing it, and overall, I think it's a pretty good film, all things considered. There's just some things that are questionable to say the least, but also moments where I was relatively impressed and was like, it's not a bad film. It's not the worst live action I've seen. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, I just want to talk about this, and yeah, that's about it. See ya.